What's going on, guys? This is Rob. If you guys enjoy my content, make sure you hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that little bell so you never miss out on my sexy voice. Okay, so normally Fridays are reserved for full story videos, right? Like we keep things isolated to just like full stories from Marvel, putting like entire story arcs into a singular video, uploading them and calling them a day. But this is Batman number 50. This is Batman number 50, and this is a huge moment. If I'm being honest with you guys, I would say Batman number 50 is probably more significant than Action Comics 1000. And here's the reason why. Action Comics 1000 was inevitable, right? As long as the Action Comic publications went on, eventually it would happen. But the idea of Batman getting married, that was never an inevitable thing. It was never something that was destined to happen. It's something someone chose to do. In this instance, Tom King. You know, I've heard different reviews. I've heard mixed reviews on Tom King's Batman run. Let me tell you guys something. I feel like Tom King's Batman run is just as good as Scott Snyder's run. It's one of the best Batman runs ever made. Like it is like if I had to create a hierarchy, I'd probably put Dennis O'Neil, Neil Adams, and then probably Tom King / Scott Snyder. It's an amazing run. And then Grant Morrison at like third, because I thought his run was okay. But still, like it's an incredibly well done thing. And here's the funny thing. We're only halfway through. We're only part way through the entire Batman run of Tom King. So initially what this does is it kind of leads to like the fruition, right? Like this whole idea of Batman getting married. And this has been drawing on for quite some time. And in truth, this has been going on long before Tom King's run on Batman. And that's one of the cool things here. And it's one of the things that he points out. Initially, you just kind of have like Batman sort of giving the business to Kite Man, which I'm gonna be honest, guys. If I'm Batman and Kite Man's in Gotham City, I would just let him function. I would just be like, he's awesome. Like, I'm gonna let Kite Man just do his own thing. He's just like, Kite Man, hell yeah. Like, I'm just gonna let Kite Man go and do his own thing because it's cool. And he's an awesome guy. But then we switch over to Porky's Bar. And Porky's Bar just has this guy, like this judge, Judge Wolfman, and he's just kind of there. The guy's drunk as hell, but he's just there. And he's basically snatched up by Batman. And then you switch over to Holly Robinson. Now, Holly Robinson, I feel like deserves a little bit of an explanation here because she's a character that's really kind of bounced around over the years. So Holly Robinson is not an original Batman creation. Instead, she came out as part of Frank Miller's Batman Year One. Now, for those of you guys who don't know what that means, following Crisis on Infinite Earths, because Batman sales had been slumping pretty badly, DC didn't know if Batman could hold his own title. And so the idea was, instead of just like jumping straight into a reboot, they wanted to test the waters and see if people would buy a Batman story that was totally different from like the 1960s version of his character, even the 1970s version of his character. And so when Frank Miller was brought over to DC to write The Dark Knight Returns, I mean, it sold like gangbusters. And so from there, then DC decided to give him an origin story. And that's where you get Batman Year One for the post-crisis landscape. So in reality, if you really wanted to read Batman, chronologically, starting from the very beginning after Crisis on Infinite Earths in like 1985, you just start with Batman Year One and then just work your way forward because that's the origin story of his character. But Holly was introduced as this girl who was basically a juvenile working the streets and was ultimately rescued by Selina Kyle. Now, over the years, and as you go through DC Comics, she's never been a huge character, save for Catwoman Volume 3. In Catwoman Volume 3, she actually took over the title. And the reason why was because that followed Infinite Crisis. But with that in mind, Holly's really like waxed and waned over the years. But the overall gist of this is that from Batman Year One going into, various stories, future stories, she always kind of played like an on-again, off-again sidekick to Catwoman. Sometimes she played the role of Catwoman. Other times, she walked away from Catwoman entirely. She married a super rich guy at one point. She actually lived with Harley Quinn for a while. She was one of those characters that kind of bounced around, but she was never really on the same level as like Poison Ivy, Harley Quinn, and Catwoman. She was just kind of like the odd man out. And so because of that, for those who are very vested in the Catwoman mythos, they're well aware of who Holly Robinson is. But if you don't really know who she is, she's just a really good friend of Selina Kyle. From here, what we end up doing is, and this is something that's kind of cool here, we get these small little letters, these small little like one-page letters that they write to each other. And these are really designed to kind of run over the idea of Batman and Catwoman. This is a very, very important thing because one of the first things this establishes is that when it comes to the Catwoman mythos and when it comes to her relationship with Batman, that Batman saw her as a villain. He kind of saw her as a villain only at the outset and only in the beginning. He basically stopped her from thwarting a robbery when she was dressed up as an old woman. But as time began to progress, Batman started to fall in love with her. And that's the reason why he always seemed to take it easier on her than he did on other criminals. At the same time, it's really cool because this hits at the idea that for him, not to, no pun intended, it was like a cat and mouse game. It was Batman chasing her getting away. And so it was really more of like Batman's way of courtship, if there really was such a thing. And so where you end up having the two of them going about and doing their own thing, this is really designed to hit home with the fact that while they're facing off against various villains and they're defeating various villains and so on and so forth, they are very much a team. They are very much sort of working together. So what ends up happening here is we end up finding out that Selina Kyle had basically broken, or at least it seems like Selina Kyle had broken Holly Robinson out of jail. She was basically the one that got her out of there, and in turn brought her to Wayne Manor because she's going to be the witness on Catwoman's side for the marriage she's going to have with Bruce. Likewise, Bruce Wayne himself needs a witness, but this is probably one of the coolest parts of the story. Bruce Wayne could have witnesses in a myriad of different ways. He could grab Tim Drake, he could grab Dick Grayson, Duke Thomas, he could grab even Damian Wayne or like Jason Todd, but he doesn't. The person he gathers is Alfred. And the reason why is because Selina Kyle and Holly Robinson were like the 1-2 punch of like the Gotham thievery world for years and years and years. And so when it comes to Batman and Alfred, Batman sits down and says, you were the first one. Like, you were the first person that I came to and said, I want to be Batman. You were there when we were building the suit. You were there when we were getting the gear, when we were buying everything we needed, when we were fashioning the Batcave. You've been there since the very beginning, and even before when you raised me as a kid. So you understand my mission better than anybody else, even if you don't necessarily agree with it wholeheartedly, because you understand what happened that led me here. And it makes the most sense that Alfred would be his witness, would be his best man, basically. Because in this situation, when you have Alfred, he's essentially the father figure of Bruce Wayne. It's really, he's really the only father Bruce has known ever since Thomas died. And so it makes perfect sense, and it's a beautiful moment because that's what we would expect. It would be like a son asking his father to be his best man at a wedding. It just works. And so from here, it's really kind of funny because when, Catwoman's getting dressed and when Bruce Wayne's getting dressed, they really kind of hate it. Batman's like, yes, I'm Bruce Wayne's like, I'm Batman. I run around and I do things. I do not go to socialite parties. I hate these things. But like with Selina Kyle, it's the same way. She's like, I don't really like putting on these kind of outfits. I do it when I'm committing a crime, but if left to my own devices, I would never wear this. And that's why like it's almost like they're so perfect for each other. And so what ends up happening is you actually have Holly who sits down and starts to talk to Selina Kyle. And this is kind of a cool moment here because when Holly's talking to Selina, she really kind of shines a light on Bruce in a way that Selina never really thought about before. And that's important because it changes the way people view other people, especially when it comes to marriage and when you're so caught up in the whole marriage ceremony and how crazy everything can be. And Holly kind of murmurs and says, it's amazing that you're marrying Bruce because it's what he needs. Like Bruce needs the happiness that you'll bring him because for him, it seems like the only way he can thrive as Batman is to be miserable and to be angry. And that's why things are so cool here is because it's a way for Bruce to kind of walk away from the Batman mantle. It's a way for him to leave the Batman mythos. And in reality, it seemed like it was only ever a matter of time. It seemed like it was only ever a matter of time before Bruce Wayne walked away and someone else took his place, that Bruce would eventually go on and do his own thing. And so following this, what they end up doing is actually, and this is kind of a funny thing, they're actually driving on O'Neill Avenue. Again, like Dennis O'Neill, Neil Adams, one of the most significant Batman runs of all time. Just a small little tribute to the contributions they've made to the Batman mythos. But as they're going through, the idea is that they're going to meet at the South Tower, which is like the first time or the place they were when they were first intimate, basically, when they first basically solidified their love for each other. And so it's a really interesting thing. And this is a really beautiful thing because what you end up having is this amazing conversation that goes on between Holly and Catwoman and Bruce and Alfred. And they basically say like, we wrote letters, like I wrote a letter telling her everything, telling her everything, everything I love about her, everything I care about her, all that kind of good stuff. So again, it's a really beautiful moment here because Bruce, it's kind of funny because Bruce never really seemed, the way he was written, never really seemed like the kind of character that would be able to convey his thoughts in a romantic sense, which is ironic because he's one of the smartest men in the world. And the way he's written is he's so articulate and intelligent, but somehow not able to voice those emotional feelings. And again, it works because when you're Bruce Wayne and you're Batman and your life is governed by vengeance and you've always kind of kept emotion at bay, what happens when you let emotion overtake you? It almost seems like you would allow yourself to lose control. And Bruce Wayne never lets himself lose control. The downside to all this is that Selina Kyle has been thinking about everything Holly's told her. And so Selina Kyle is not at South Tower. Selina Kyle is at Kane Plaza. And the reason why Selina Kyle's at Kane Plaza is because she leaves Bruce Wayne at the altar. And it's like, oh my God. It's the saddest thing. It's the saddest thing. Tom King. I'm actually pissed at Tom King. I'm so mad. But it's beautiful though, because it's like Batman can never find happiness. It's tragic and it's sad, but it's like Bruce Wayne will never get married. Bruce Wayne will never find romance. Like he'll never find love because he's not meant for it. And that's what's so tragic about it. And that's what kind of makes it work is Bruce Wayne has to be Batman. He can't be Batman and be a husband at the same time because what that means is he'll have something to lose. That's what that means. But I would argue that in reality, I think Bruce Wayne being married would make him a better Batman. Not necessarily from a sense of compassion, but because he does have something to lose, he'll fight all the harder to keep it. And that's why I think it would make him a much better Batman, because he would see Gotham in a different light. But again, it's sad, but it's gorgeous, because in reality, it just kind of hits home with the idea that like Bruce can't be happy. Selina Kyle left him. And the whole idea was that in Selina Kyle's mind, Bruce Wayne has to be miserable in order to be Batman. It's one of these things where she's kind of doing what's best for Bruce. And so this is kind of funny here though, because remember, we're partway through Tom King's run. So it's not like we know exactly what's gonna happen. It's not like this is the end of it. And he's like, yep, and we're done. Sorry guys, Bruce is gonna be miserable forever. It could very well be that this is all a ruse. But the other reason why is because what we end up finding out here is that Holly Robinson, it seems like she was basically busted out of Gotham, out of Arkham Asylum, not by Selina Kyle, but by Bane. And like the whole idea of planting seeds of doubt in the mind of Selina Kyle was all done by Bane. It was orchestrated by him to basically say like, you're going to plant these seeds of doubt. You're going to essentially put in the mind of Selina Kyle, she cannot marry Batman. If she marries Bruce Wayne, he won't be able to be Batman again, and it'll essentially like destroy Gotham City. It'll come crumbling down because the one person keeping the forces of evil at bay has retired and walked away. And so it's like Bane, really from like behind the scenes, seems to have orchestrated this whole thing. Now I say seems because we don't know with an absolute certainty, but it is an amazing reveal, because if it's true that Bane orchestrated all of this, then hot damn, this really makes Bane one of the best villains ever. It is a genius move. Literally break Bruce Wayne emotionally, mentally, break him down in every conceivable way. So again, amazing story, absolutely amazing, and I'm really excited to see what happens next. But if you are new here to Comics Explained, make sure you guys hit the sub button to become part of the Rob Corps. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure you drop a like, and yeah, I will catch you all later. Peace.